Hey y'all, it's John Ray, and today's video is going to be super simple in concept, but it might be the most powerful prayer that you will ever pray. At least it was for me. And it's not something from Psalms that's super poetic. It's not really long. It's not even a confident, affirming prayer, but it is an honest prayer. And what I've found time and time again is that this prayer does open the door to miracles. And the way that it goes is, God, I don't know, but you do. That's the prayer. And when you understand what that really means, when you feel into it in your bones, you'll realize that surrender is not weakness. It's actually a pathway to divine intelligence. And so I want to just break this down on metaphysically and mystically. Why does this prayer actually work? So, in a mystical interpretation of the Bible, God isn't some man in the sky. God is I am, the one infinite awareness behind all creation. And as Tom Campbell, the physicist, would put it, God is the larger consciousness system, the totality of awareness available to the universe. That means that God contains every possible perception, every angle, every timeline, every insight, every solution. God is all awareness. We're just an individuated part of that. But think about all of the things that could see or be aware of something or have awareness through any of their senses. Well, that's all God. And so we want to expand our awareness into all of those different nodal points. And each of us as an individual are unique units of consciousness within that larger field of awareness. We're real, we're powerful, we're divine, but we're not all of the awareness at once. So when we reach the edge of our current knowing or awareness, when we feel overwhelmed or confused or frozen by fear, really the most mystical or reverent thing that we can do is say, I don't know, but you do. And we're signaling to that larger awareness that we're ready to expand in awareness, to have more decision space, to have more data input. And if we look in the Bible to ground this, we can go to Proverbs 3:5-6, which says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. So why do we use the masculine term in the Bible for God? It's because God is awareness. It's the conscious awareness. Now, God could also be the subconscious awareness, which is a more feminine representation of God, but the God in the Bible is almost always referring to a conscious assumption of awareness. And so we use the masculine to reflect Adam, or the conscious mind, where Eve is more the subconscious mind. But when we look at this verse and when we talk about trusting the Lord in all of our heart, this isn't about bypassing our own responsibility. It's about recognizing that our understanding has limits, and that those limits aren't failures, they're actually invitations. James 1:5 echoes this by saying, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously without reproach. Even Jesus, in his most human moment, said, not my will, but yours be done. That was in Luke 22:42. And that is the mystical moment of release. And that's really what we're aiming for in this prayer of surrender. And the reason that this works is that when you say, I don't know, but you do, you're acknowledging the limit of your own current awareness, and you're opening yourself to receive a greater one. So you're feeling the feelings of the fact that you feel confused right now, that you don't know what to do, that you're having that somatic experience. And yet you're also holding a greater state of awareness that says, but you know what? Through God, through greater awareness, I know this solution exists. And so I'm calling in that greater level of awareness. It's like being lost in a woods and you have a walkie-talkie and you're trying to signal to people on the ground. But if you could get to somebody who is in a tower with a satellite phone or a satellite Google Maps, you'd be able to have a much larger perspective or awareness of the entire forest that you're in. And that's what God is. That's what the larger consciousness system is. It's the ability to see the whole map. And the mystical key in all this is that the only thing that blocks us from seeing more is the energy that we're not willing to feel. That trapped trauma in our system prevents us from expanding in awareness in moments when we need it. And you might have noticed this. Maybe, the last time that you found yourself in a state of panic or shame or control, you notice that your vision gets very narrow. You only see one or two options. You start to spiral. And if you will just in that moment surrender and throw your hands up and say, I don't know, God, but you do, you give yourself a permission slip to feel into the energetics and the somatics of that moment, find presence again, which is you just recognizing what's actually happening rather than what you're projecting onto the situation. In this permission to feel, you're letting the grief move, you're letting the rage rise, you're feeling the stuckness in your chest or belly or throat, not labeling it, not projecting meaning onto it, just allowing yourself to have that experience. You're observing what's happening in your body. And this is what integration looks like. It's not a mental practice, it's somatic. You're feeling the present moment in your body as sensation. And this is where the Bible, when it talks about the 12 tribes or the 12 disciples or the 12 gates, all of that represents the states of consciousness, the emotional archetypes, and the spiritual thresholds that must be walked through and felt through in order to expand your awareness into what God already sees. That's the I am. That's the Christ consciousness. So let's say that you lost your job, or you feel that, a relationship that you're in is ending, or a business didn't quite work out the way that you wanted. In that moment, your whole nervous system will go into contraction, and you'll want to fight against that because it's uncomfortable. And the question in your mind is, what now? What's next? What do I do? You kind of get into that manic frenzy. This is your logical mind racing because nothing feels clear, and there's a deep discomfort that comes with uncertainty. And this is the exact moment that you can use this prayer to get back to presence and to expand into a greater awareness. You say, God, I don't know, but you do. And then you take a deep breath. You notice what's happening in your body and you feel that. You let the tension surface. You let the confusion be whatever it needs to be. You cry if you need to. You shake your body out. Maybe you lay on the floor and just kind of feel the weight of your body moving into the floor. And that emotional energy will begin to move. And once it's no longer blocking the answer has a place to move in and present itself in your awareness. Trauma is always the blocker of good ideas. And so when we feel our temporary discomfort fully and the fog begins to clear around that, that's when we can trust for things to shift. And they shift starting with the way that we feel, the comfort that we have in our body, our recognition of the present moment, no longer projecting ideas onto what's happening, but rather just being with what's actually there. And in that moment that we can get back to a state of presence, that's when new awareness can come in and a new door can open. Every story in the Bible mirrors this pattern. Moses didn't know how to cross the Red Sea. And so he's battling with this storm the whole night before he parts the Red Sea. And that battling with the storm is all of that internal emotional energy that you have to somatically track and feel a sensation, get back to a place of presence, and then you part the waters. David didn't know how to defeat Goliath. Esther didn't know if she'd survive in the king's court. Mary didn't know how the impossible would unfold. But that all of them got back to a place of presence. They essentially said, I don't know, but you do, God. And they trusted that even in their current state of consciousness, if they didn't know what they needed to know, the answer was available to them. And they listened to the voice beyond the veil, and the veil was pierced through their surrender and their recognition that information, answers, and greater awareness could flow to them. Neville Goddard used to talk about how you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But what if you don't even know what to assume? What if you can't feel anything but fear? Well, this is the prayer that you begin with. God, I don't know, but you do. It's still an assumption. It's the assumption that divine wisdom can find you. It's the knowing that God already sees the end. And if you'll sit in that place of temporary discomfort, allow that energy to play itself out in your body, transmute it back into creative potential. If you'll feel through that chaos instead of judging it, you'll start to inherit the clarity that was there all along. So, what's the most powerful prayer? It's not one that begs. It's not one that demands. It's not even one that commands like an affirmation. It's the one that opens the gate to deeper awareness. God, I don't know, but you do. Because when you say that, you hand the mic back to God, so to speak. You create the space for expanded awareness. You let go of the illusion of control and step into the real power of alignment with God, in co-creation with God. And from that space, the solution, the next step, the miracle is already waiting. Let me know what happens when you use this prayer, the miracles that show up in your life, the deeper awareness that comes to you. And let's do this in community together. By sharing our success stories and by talking about the things that are working, we can deepen our conviction that God has our back. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.